Hi everyone, welcome to the LucasFilles channel, a French female podcast that focuses on Star Wars but also features Asian dramas and movies that we love to watch. My name is Claire and today's episode is an interview of the very talented British writer Cavan Scott, aka Sir Cavan Scott in my mind, part of the Luminous team which is currently creating the High Republic series and whose latest novel, The Rising Storm, is gaining rave reviews and major sales in libraries. I met Cavan during a French Star Wars convention near the town of Vichy, and I had the privilege of translating into French the wonderful audio drama that he wrote. So this interview was really focusing on this play, but we are going to talk about other elements of the High Republic and Cavan's particular interests. Thank you for watching. Enjoy. Hi, Cavan.
Hello there.
Thank you for being in the show. It's the first time ever that we are having an English-speaking guest and we're doing an English-speaking interview.
I'm honoured, but also it's good because you've heard me. We know you've never heard me try and speak French. You've seen me try and write French.
Yes.
And that's been painful enough.
Well, the honour is all ours, and I couldn't think of a better godfather for this cycle of interview. We hope we're going to have more. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an ongoing conversation between us because I was so lucky to spend the weekend next to you helping you sign autographs to French readers. We're going to go straight into talking about Lorna D.
Uh-huh.
So the French public is soon going to find more about Lorna D.
Yes.
You're going to reveal her origin story about this mysterious helmet-wearing character that
Yes, exactly.
first popped up in Charles Soule's book. Mm-hmm. And I guess he penned the name.
Absolutely, yeah. So Charles came up with the character, and she was quite a minor character in Light of the Jedi, and we didn't really know what we were going to be doing with her, or if we were going to be doing anything much with her. And yeah, he did this great thing that she names the ship after herself, and he never really explained why, because again, it wasn't part of that story. And a lot of people reacted to her. But before we knew she was going to be popular, I'd started to write The Rising Storm, and I knew she was going to also be in the comics. And so they asked me to bump her part up in The Rising Storm. And it was through exploring her character and writing her character in that we decided if we were going to do an audio drama, that she could be the person that we focus on.
She'd be the perfect drama queen.
She is the absolute perfect drama queen, yes.
So you knew fairly on that you were going to write about her, and how soon did you think you knew that she would be the perfect Byronian kind of anti-heroine?
Well, it came from conversations between me and Justina, who was also picking up and writing with her in some of the YA books, and we started to explore what her past would be. And we suddenly realised that we thought she came from money. We thought she came from an aristocratic background. And I joked about she could be the perfect anti-Princess Leia. Someone who had her worlds taken away from her and decided then she'd rip everyone else's worlds to pieces. And that conversation, everything came from that. And so then we looked back and went, well, why does she call her ship the Lorna D? Why is her name that important to her? And that's when we started to get into this entire backstory without trying to spoil too much, that she is from a Twilight High house. That house is removed from power and she's left adrift. And that was the beginning of her story. And of course, the great thing is that was the beginning of a story that leads her to being a Tempest-Runner. And then hopefully through this book and through the stuff that's coming, or this audio drama, we show that it's actually only the very beginning of her story. And from that conversation, her entire life has been developed, and we know where she's going to end up as well, which of course the listeners and readers don't yet.
Yeah, all the mysteries about Lorna D haven't been revealed. There's a lot of secrets about her and a lot of things happening to her. Talk about the princess, and she's definitely a pendant or a mirror image of Princess Leia in many ways. She reminded me a lot about badass Anastasia. We talked a little about it. There's this Romanov element at one point. So
and that was definitely something I dipped into when I was writing her for her. And how someone at that age who loses her family in quite a violent manner would react to that situation. And of course with Lorna, being Lorna, she reacts in an incredibly bad way for everyone involved, but most importantly for herself. And that was her catalytic moment in her story, is having her family taken away And the key to Lorna, as we see in the drama, and again, I don't want to get into too much detail, is that she handles situations very badly, and she always blames everyone except for the one person in the situation who could probably make the biggest change. And yes, you have to listen to the play to find out who that is.
Still thinking about heroines and major female heroines, and talking maybe about complicated families. Lorna D, Lorna Doone, was that ever mentioned?
It was mentioned a few times. I don't think when Charles came up with the name, I think he was subconsciously influenced in it. One thing he wanted to do with Lorna was to give her a very normal name, the name of someone. I literally have someone live near me called Lorna, so I find it quite funny every time we talk about her. And so it's that tradition of, Luke and, and having very familiar names within Star Wars. So yeah, it was definitely to ground her. We wanted to be a grounded character. But again, we didn't realise how important her name was to be going to her again. It's actually not much of a spoiler. She takes a lot of names in this story, and it becomes a theme of she tries on a lot of masks, which is exactly what the Nihil are all
She's
about.
so Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things we decided earlier on was that the Nihil have masks, but we wanted to have a reason they have masks, which is why they used the gas. That's why they have the war cloud. Because we didn't just want them to wear masks because they were in Star Wars. So that came from sort of gas mask imagery. But it's given us a chance to really think about, with all the characters, with Markian, how he relates to his two masks, and we've obviously seen that in the film, how people relate to the masks they wear. With Lorna, she wears a mask whether she's got a helmet on or not. And so as we see in the drama, she tries on different personalities. And
nothing really fits. No.
And I don't think, it's going to be a while till she really works out who she is. And that's why I find her so fascinating, because she is quite self-destructive as well.
What feedback have you got so far about this particular character?
I didn't expect people would love her as much as they do. I also didn't think, because when we revealed her face, and Ario Anadito designed her, she is quite formidable looking, and I put this detail into The Rising Storm that she sharpens her teeth, which is traditionally only a male thing that the Twi'leks do. And again, that's all about her trying on different identities, and it happens while she's in the orbit of the Rose as well. Obviously, all have sharp teeth. So again, everything about her is trying to work out who she is. But yeah, I thought when we were going to reveal that she was perhaps too terrifying to look at, but actually people have really gone for that. And people love her. People love a baddie in Star Wars. We all know this. And I don't think we really expected the response to be so great about her. And now people are desperate to find out more.
Well, speaking about what you mentioned about the teeth and the reveal and everything, there's a pretty horrifying scene that you wrote from people who are scared of dentists, and there are many people there.
Yeah. But also, every scene you try and have something there to tell you about the character, and I loved the fact this would be going on and she'd be completely nonchalant about it and just like, this is what I'm doing now, and it must hurt, it's gotta hurt. I never think there's a lot of anesthetics in Star Wars. It doesn't seem to be, unless you put Bacta all over yourself. But she just deals with it, and again, it sort of sums up who she will go through whatever she will do what she has to do for what she thinks she has to do to survive, and she will do anything. And I think that's why people have latched onto her. She's not just evil for evil's sake. She does some very evil things and dreadful things. But again, one of the things I tried to do in Tempest-Runner, as I suppose I tried to do in Dooku Jedi Lost, is to explore the people behind the bad acts, and not everyone is a villain all the time. And and there are moments in Lorna when we see definitely where she comes from and why she's doing this, and hopefully you're yelling at her going, stop doing the bad things, stop making the wrong choices, because I think that's part of her story. We haven't really seen in Star Wars a character who is self-destructive in that sense, who is offered redemption and knows that actually it's really easy to take it and then we'll go a different way, because for reasons that we've yet to explore, really. Is she scared? Is she just bitter? Is she just stubborn? Or does she actually want to be that way? And it's this play has been a way of laying the groundwork for some of those questions that we're going to ask later on.
But at the same time, you can help but root for her. I mean, not just because we know about some tragic past that you can, not being an apologist, but you can explain some of her bad choices.
Yeah.
And also, she has an arc right now, which is kind of reminiscent of, for instance, like if you think about Harley Quinn and what we saw recently with emancipation of like she's through with clowns too, and she's also reaching out to other girls, and there's a very strong sorority element in this drama that is so appealing to many women, and I'm guessing that you get rave reviews from a lot of female fans.
I think it was when I was younger, I used to watch Prisoner Cell Block H. I don't know if you had that in France. It was an Australian soap opera set in a female prison, and my gran used to watch it, and I used to watch it with her. I don't think it's the most appropriate thing for a gran to show her grandson, but we used to watch it when I went over and stayed. And I used to love that community aspect of it, and when I suggested doing a prison story with Lorna and setting it on a female prison, there was a lot of conversations about, but that means we'll have female characters doing horrible things to other female characters, and I was like, yes, because that's what prison life is like, and it was a chance of putting her through the ringer and seeing how she would come out, where actually she is on an even playing field. And that's what the other thing we tried to do with Tempest-Runner was to remove all the things that make Lorna D who we think she is. So she loses her armor, she loses her Tempest, and she's just surrounded by people who don't know who she is, and it forces her in some ways to try and work that out a bit more herself. And it's a melting pot of different people, and you can just tell at any minute something was going to, is going to go off in that situation. And she's probably the worst person to put in the middle of it, but she's trying to.
She's not the worst person in the.
No, she's not. Which is
motley crew that you wrote into
That's
this prison.
That's the thing. She's not. I think she would think she is going to be the worst person, and it's a bit of a shock to her when she realizes that she's not. And again, it's how she reacts to those moments. And there is perhaps an element of tragedy at points of how she reacts, because you are doing that thing of going, you're rooting for her, and you're like, you can make a choice here really easily, Lorna. And that was a part of the conversation we had, is like, what would she do in that situation? And what we wanted her to do and what she does do are two different things.
You mentioned that show with the show at the prison, and there are tons of winks and clever homages in the drama for like a different movie genre, but also like different movies.
Yeah.
One that struck a particular chord with me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was James Cameron's Aliens. And
there's always everything about James Cameron's Aliens. I love.
So you had that in mind?
Yeah, I'm a massive. I think I'm a bigger Aliens fan than I am an Alien fan. And
more James Cameron than Ridley Scott. Then.
Yeah, I mean, yes. There's part of me says I should apologise for that, but I don't want to. I think the scene where you get the Marines going off, and they get their briefing in Aliens is one of the best written scenes for a briefing scene and also a character scene, because you know exactly who everyone in that room is by the end of that briefing. And yeah, there was definitely an influence of the people having to go off and do a job from a ship. But yeah, you don't have to scratch too far in any of my stories to get a James
So
Cameron
I'm glad I was not totally wrong,
yeah.
but the two that I was really like, oh my god, just like, and I also love this movie, and I had tremendous influence too. But of course, the use of machinery in that planet forest, and you can't help thinking about the stay away from her bitch, and also the whole chase in the tunnels with this horrific moment with the droids. I was like, I was thinking about that scene when they have to blow themselves up. So
it was. There's a definite. I think part of what I love doing about my job is the fact you can mix up things. So there was. I watched a lot of prison movies. I watched a lot. I read a lot of. Watched a lot of documentaries about prisons as well as research. But there are those moments, especially with my idea of what Star Wars should be, when you want a monster, and so. I honestly think that's one of the best monster films ever made. So I go back to it time and time again.
Were there any parts that had to be removed? Because it's a massive beast. I mean, I remember Lucy mentioned yesterday that it lasts 6 hours and we have to listen to it. And it's true that we don't have that culture in France that you have about radio drama, audio drama. So did you have to remove some things because it was too long, or did you have to change things because they said, "Oh, don't go this direction"?
Not so much on this one. I think we learnt more on when I was doing Dooku of what it would look like, what a Star Wars audio drama at this length would look. There's a very technical reason why it's the length it is that people, and this is a bit of sort of inside baseball knowledge, but people don't buy things like audio dramas on things like Audible unless they're a certain length, because when you buy a book on Audible, it's 12 hours, 13 hours, and a lot of audio dramas are like 1 or 2 hours. So you need to have value for money, and that's hopefully what we've offered with this. So I thought of it more as a series. So I planned it as a 6-part series. So there are definitely sort of episodes.
There are pauses.
Yeah.
So you can stop.
Yeah, because again, Dooku was one long story, and I think for some people it might have been too much without having those moments where you stop. So with this, it gave me a chance to have cliffhangers. It gave me a chance to have moments where you could breathe after a tense, half hour with Lorna, which there are a lot of.
It's quite a ride.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Among the Luminous team, Claudia Gran, you seem not shy to touch upon the issues of sex, or the questions of sex and romance. And it's something that is a little touchy, though, in the Star Wars universe. A lot of fans are totally against it and say that they have nothing to do there. And especially when you have to talk about Jedi, who are literally the untouchable. Do you think that these feelings and these topics belong in the Star Wars universe? And are we getting some in Phase 3? Is it something would you be against it? Or?
Well, I think with the topic Jedi in my mind have to be human, otherwise they just become gods. And so what's the most human thing, no matter your species in Star Wars, is to fall in love or have relationships. And it's how we can relate to them, and it's whether those relationships are for good or bad, and the relationship can be love or hate or whatever. And I think to ignore them would be you would miss out on so much drama and chance for drama and chance for conflict and character building, because we grow through our relationships. We grow through our relationships that have been mistakes. We grow through our relationships that have been defining. And so I think I personally want to see that in things that I read and watch, because it's the main part of everyone's life, for good or for ill. People do get touchy about these things in everything, whether it's Star Wars or Marvel or whatever. But with the High Republic, it's here to stay. So
maybe some sexy scenes.
Well, I couldn't possibly say. I mean, we touched on them a bit in Rising Storm, but in a very tasteful manner, hopefully. Let's face it, when now's our man's in the room, there's always the chance, because the man's just a walking horn dog. He's just like, he can't help it. He's got rules of his own, that boy.
Well, you were a beautiful villainous crush with the Dothan, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are so many opportunities. I think it's just a mistake to rule it out. It's part and parcel of
That's so great to hear.
Let's face it, there is romance in the very first moments of Star Wars. So it's to say it has no part in Star Wars means that you haven't watched the original 3 movies.
Well, you can have a family saga without sex and love at one point.
Exactly.
You have a knack at building suspense, and you love horror movies, as you often mention, and I'll try to mention. So would you like to write a horror book? So 2 questions, actually. Mm-hmm. Would you like to write a horror novel for Star Wars, and how would you pitch it? So that's question 1. And question 2 is, what in your mind is the most horrific moment in Star Wars, in the movies that we have had so far, and that might have impacted you?
I would like to write a horror novel. I'm not going to pitch it here because I want to pitch it to Lucasfilm. I would love.
I'm still trying.
I know. Very good. I'd like to write a horror film in Star Wars. I think we're getting to the point in Star Wars now when we have the opportunity to have different genres, and just as I would love to see a proper romance film or TV show, I'd love to see a horror film in the sense of a proper adult horror film. And also I'm a big fan of kid horror, which probably comes from watching the Goonies and things as a kid, and the Monster Squad. So I'd love to explore that kind of world, which I think probably I have been in my comics for years. The most horrific scene. I mean, monsters made Star Wars for me. I mean, I think anyone who talks to me, knows within seconds that conversations always go back to monsters. And Empire was the first film I saw, and I was terrified by the Wampa scene, especially in the original cut, when you don't see the Wampa at all, really, because of reasons behind the camera. So from a sort of monster, horrific scene, that's the worst for monster scares. Again, in Empire, I think Luke seeing himself in the tree and seeing, for a pure horror image, Vader's mask coming off and Luke's face being there, I think that's the one that had most effect to me when I was growing up, because of everything that brought. It's a nightmare, literally a nightmare image, and we see that played out in Luke from that moment on. You see at the end of Return of the Jedi when he looks at his father and realizes they've got the same, or not the same hand, as the case may be. You see it in his eyes when in The Last Jedi when he pulls his saber on Ben. So I mean, and that is the most horrific thing in Star Wars. It is a family saga, and the family are always ripping each other apart. And I actually think that probably the nightmare, it's another nightmare image in Last Jedi, is the different tellings of that moment in the hut with Ben, because for both of them it was the most terrifying thing. And I think Mark Hamill is one of his best bits of acting he's ever done, because you can see it in his eyes that it's like he's still looking at that mask in Yoda's tree, and again he's being his father at that point. He's
still haunted.
And that's probably the most horrifying thing in Star Wars, is the fact you can't get away from your legacy and you can't get away from your destiny, and you always have to fight it. But also, that's the biggest hope, because you can fight it. And so, horror without hope is just splatter movies, and I think that's why horror actually has hope in its heart. You need hope. Well, actually, you need hope that people are going to survive, and then that becomes even more horrifying when they don't. So yeah, I think for me, that's always the heart of horror in Star Wars.
You're going to have to be careful today, because I saw Wampa roam around.
I've had photos with them.
Oh, you already?
Yeah. It's I love the Wampa scene.
So you've conquered your fears.
I mean, this is a scoop. I don't think I've mentioned this anywhere, but I've not written anything with the Wampa until this year, and that's coming out soon, because I finally got around to writing a Wampa story. So yeah, I always wanted to.
That's a beautiful coming of age story.
It is really. I've absolutely got rid of that demon now of being so terrified of the Wampa.
So that was the cosplaying that we mentioned. So we're probably soon going to have some people cosplaying as Lord Nudie, or start seeing cosplayers from the High Republic.
Yeah, we're seeing more and more. So the first con I went to after the pandemic was London MCM Movie Con. And the first person I saw when I walked in was someone who was dressed as Ava Christ, and that was an incredible moment. There's someone who's making a skier costume for Celebration, and she keeps posting her images online, and she's done a full latex mask, so I have no idea what she looks like, and I won't if I see her a skier. Don't know if she's going down the one arm route or two arms, so we'll have to see. And it's just incredible that people spend so much time on these costumes. I love it. I love cosplaying. I don't think I could do it, because I haven't got the patience to do that much craft. But yeah, the fact that people love these characters enough to spend that much time, not just walking around on the day dressed as them, which is obviously brilliant, but the work that's gone into them beforehand. And I love it when people tag me on socials about them building stuff. So yeah, Celebration's going to be interesting this year to see how much High Republic.
Are you aware of any fan fiction from your books already about the High Republic?
I know it's this is awful. I legally can't look at fan fiction because of legal rooms, and I started writing fan fiction. That's how I started working out I wanted to be a writer, writing for Doctor Who fanzines in the 80s and 90s. Please, no one go and look for them. But yeah, I mean, so for me it breaks my heart. But it's that. We have to give that answer all the time when people send it to us. We can't read it. But again, seeing the art is one. The amount of art that surrounds these characters. I love that. So yeah, it's brilliant to see the community. The community has been phenomenal for the High Republic, and it's been a little oasis in Star Wars Online for a lot of people I know. And we're so grateful about that.
And that would be the last question. So last time that Claudia Gray came to LucasFilles, she told us an anecdote about your trip to Galaxy's Edge, the first time that you guys went there just before lockdown. And she was very disappointed by the lack of ice cream on the menu at the cantina or wherever you guys went. So she decided that she was going to introduce this dessert into the universe. So you recently took a trip to Galaxy's Edge with the team again.
Yeah.
Is there any anecdote that you would be willing to share that might pop up in the phase 3 or in the coming books? Like you're thinking, oh, I need to bring that in. Maybe something that you did together, or you realized, oh, they have no toilet paper or whatever comes up.
I'm sure they do. They must have toilet paper. I don't know about something that I thought I needed to add to it, but I was very happy there was Trandoshan Ale. So I felt like Skier for a minute, so I had to order the Trandoshan Ale, which was really good. And, obviously had to hold it just in one hand. I couldn't keep changing hands. But, I love Galaxy's Edge. What I would love to have in Galaxy's Edge is a bit more High Republic, because they were on Batuu at the time, as we might see.
Well, thank you so much, Cavan, for your time, and it was a delightful interview for me anyways, and I'm so looking forward to your coming works, and maybe one day see a movie with your horror script, and whatever you're gonna write is gonna be brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.